The galaxy had long forgotten about humans. To most alien civilizations, the word human was nothing more than an old campfire story, told to scare children or entertain soldiers during long patrols. They spoke of a strange species that once walked the stars fast to adapt, impossible to predict, and dangerous beyond reason. But no one alive had ever seen one. The last confirmed human sighting was over 600 years ago. Now, their existence was a rumor, buried under centuries of wars and new empires. The Vorak Dominion, one of the oldest and most powerful empires, kept old records of the humans in a locked archive deep within their capital. Even their scholars laughed when they read those ancient logs. Humans, they claimed, were exaggerated primitive brutes who fought with metal shells and chemical fire. Nothing like the clean, controlled weapons of today. If such creatures ever did exist, they were long gone. But in the cold mining moon of Varelsvan, something was about to change. The night shift at the listening post was always boring. 3 Virel technicians sat in a dimly lit control room, sipping bitter thermal tea, staring at endless lines of scanner data. It was the kind of work that made you wish for a pirate attack, just for something to talk about. That night, the youngest technician, Lervon, frowned at his console. "Chief, I'm picking up something strange." The chief barely looked up. "Strange how?" "More asteroid echoes." "Ignore it." "No, this is different." Lervon's eyes narrowed as the signal repeated. It was deep, low, and steady. A pulse, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. "It's coming from outside the charted lanes." Old signal bands pre-warp era. The chief finally leaned over. His expression shifted from boredom to confusion. "That band hasn't been used in centuries." He adjusted the receiver, boosting the signal. The hum grew louder in the room. Speakers, a deep metallic THRUM. Then it happened. The sound changed. It became a roar like something huge and alive was waking up. The third technician, a veteran named Cern, stiffened in his chair. His hand trembled slightly. "I've heard that sound before," he whispered. The chief looked at him. "Where?" Cern swallowed. "In the old war logs, from the human archives." The room went silent. The signal grew louder, shaking the table slightly. Outside, on the frozen surface of the moon, shadows moved against the stars. Something massive passed between the listening post and the system's pale sun. The scanners, lit up with false reading size estimates, too large to be real. No transponder codes. Lervon said quickly, his voice shaking. "Not Dominion design. Not any design, I know." The chief's mouth went dry. He tried to send a warning to the nearest Dominion patrol station, but the transmission jammed halfway. Static filled the air, sharp and violent. Then a voice came. Through it was deep, human, speaking in the Dominion's own language, but with an accent none of them had heard before. "We see you." The 3 technicians froze. The voice was followed by silence. They stared at the radar screen. Slowly, the shadow outside moved again. Then it was gone, swallowed by the dark. The signal ended. Lervon exhaled shakily. We should report this." Cern shook his head. "No one will believe us. They'll say it was a glitch." The chief stayed quiet, his eyes still on the scanner. In his gut, he knew this was not a glitch. Something had been out there. Something old. Something powerful across the galaxy. In a small freighter passing through a distant sector, another strange encounter was unfolding. A trader named Gerald was transporting rare crystals when his ship's proximity alarms screamed. He looked out into the void and saw it, a massive shape gliding silently, with no engine flare, no navigation lights. The hull was dark, but for a brief moment he saw an emblem painted on its side. It was a flag, faded, scorched, but still visible. A blue background scattered with white stars, and red stripes slashed across it. Gerald had no idea what it meant, but somewhere deep in his mind, the sight made him shiver. Reports began to trickle into Dominion space, and identified ships seen at the edges of star systems. Long-range probes disappearing without a trace, border outposts going silent. At first, the High Council dismissed them as pirate raids or faulty equipment, but the pattern was too perfect. Each incident was spaced days apart, circling the Dominion's outer colonies like a predator stalking its prey. In the undercity of the Dominion capital, smugglers whispered to each other in dimly lit bars. The stories were spreading. An old fleet was moving again, a fleet that shouldn't exist. Some said it was the return of the Iron Ghosts, a forgotten Dominion Black Ops unit. Others, they whispered a word that hadn't been spoken in centuries. Humans. No one dared say it too loudly, because if the stories were true, it meant the galaxy had been wrong. Humans hadn't disappeared. They had been hiding, watching, waiting, and now something had woken them up. In the silence of deep space, far beyond Dominion reach, an ancient warship drifted. Its hull bore the scars of battles fought before most empires even existed. Inside, its crew prepared in quiet focus. The captain stood at the forward viewport, looking out at the endless stars. "Set course," he said. "We've been forgotten long enough." Engines older than the Dominion itself roared to life, and for the first time in 6 centuries, a human warship moved toward enemy skies. The High Council of the Vorak Dominion sat in a towering chamber of glass and steel. From the outside, the capital looked calm, its silver towers shining under the twin suns. But inside, the council chamber was tense. Reports from the border were piling up, listening posts going silent, trade ships vanishing, and strange engine signatures appearing in uncharted space. None of them matched Dominion records. High Chancellor Zurek leaned forward, his black crest feathers twitching in irritation. "We are chasing shadows," he said. "Old smugglers' tales. Pirates, maybe." A younger counselor stood, holding a datapad. "Chancellor, this is not random. These sightings follow a pattern for incidents in the last month, each exactly 5 standard days apart. It's like someone is testing our defenses." Slowly closing in, Zurek's eyes narrowed. "And you think this is the return of your mythical humans?" His tone dripped with sarcasm. The counselor hesitated. The descriptions, they matched the old records. Large ships, no transponder codes, black holes, and one sighting claims to have seen an ancient Terran flag. The chamber fell silent. Even those who didn't believe in humans shifted uncomfortably, far away. In the cold reaches of Sector Thal 3, a Dominion patrol fleet was moving through empty space. The fleet was led by the war cruiser Vurak's Pride, a massive ship bristling with weapons. Its captain Revik was confident. Pirates, he thought. Or maybe an old smuggler with a stolen battleship. But then the long-range scanner operator froze. "Sir, I have a contact. Large mass, reading. No ID, closing fast." "Visual," Revik ordered. At first, the view screen showed only darkness and scattered stars. Then, a shadow moved across the screen, so large it blotted out constellations. The crew went silent. The ship had no lights, no visible engines, yet it moved with steady, terrifying speed. "Zoom," Revik said quietly. The image sharpened. The hull was jagged, scarred, patched with mismatched armor plates from unknown battles. But even under the damage, there was a design unlike anything the Dominion had seen in centuries. Angular, brutal, built for war. Then, for a heartbeat, the ship's side rotated into view, and they saw it. The emblem, a blue rectangle, white stars, red stripes, the old Terran flag. "Impossible," Revik muttered, before anyone could react. The comms lit up with a deep, human voice. "This is not your war. Stand down." The crew exchanged looks. The captain's spines bristled. "All ships, target that vessel. Fire on my mark." They fired. Plasma cannons lit the void, energy beams slicing across space. The alien gunners were sure no ship could withstand such fire, but the human vessel didn't move. The blasts hit and vanished in bursts of light. When the glare faded, the ship was still there. Then it moved. It surged forward with impossible acceleration. In seconds, it was among them. Beams of concentrated kinetic fire tore through Dominion warships. A cruiser exploded. A frigate split in two, and then half the fleet was simply gone. No wreckage, no distress beacons. Gone. On the Vorax Pride, alarms screamed. "They're using jump technology inside a battle zone." The navigator shouted, but that was impossible. No ship could make a safe jump in such close range without tearing itself apart. And yet, the human ship was doing it, vanishing and reappearing like a ghost, destroying everything in its path. In less than 3 minutes, the Dominion fleet was crippled. The human ship stopped moving. It sat there in silence, as if daring them to try again. Then the voice returned, colder than before. "You were warned." The ship turned, its massive engines glowing for the first time. It accelerated away, vanishing into the void. The surviving Dominion ships limped back toward the capital. The official report was heavily edited words like "unknown vessel" and "pirate technology" replaced any mention of humans. But the crews who had been there, they knew, and they talked. Within days, the story spread across the outer systems. The forgotten war fleet had returned. The humans, if that's what they were not a myth. They were real, and they had warships no one could match. Meanwhile, deep in an asteroid field, far from any trade route, the human vessel docked with another ship even larger. The two warships drifted together like silent predators. On the bridge of the lead ship, the human captain watched intercepted Dominion news broadcasts. They were still denying what had happened, still refusing to say the word human. He smiled faintly. "Let them lie," he said. "It will make the truth hit harder." A younger officer approached. "Sir, the fleet is ready. We await your order." The captain turned toward the stars, his eyes narrowing. "We move when they stop laughing." And somewhere in the dark between worlds, more shadows were moving warships, so old they had fought wars before half the galaxy had. Learned to build cities. Ships that had been silent for centuries, now waking up one by one. The galaxy still thought humans were just a story, but soon they would see the fleet with their own eyes. The Dominion's military command was not used to humiliation. In their history, no enemy had ever struck their fleets and escaped without punishment. And yet, the mysterious black warship had done exactly that. In the great war hall of the Dominion, the most decorated admirals and generals gathered. The massive holographic table in the center displayed the reconstructed events from the Thal-3 encounter. The image of the human ship, blurry but unmistakable, hovered above them. "This," growled Admiral Karath, "is an insult to the Dominion. We were tested and found wanting." Another general folded his arms. "Or perhaps this is nothing but a pirate king with stolen relics. No species could vanish for 6 centuries and return with technology beyond ours." The room erupted in arguments. Some wanted to double border patrols. Others wanted to ignore the reports to prevent panic. Then, in the middle of the shouting, the chamber's main comm system lit up. A secure transmission was coming from an untraceable source. "Against protocol," Admiral Karath ordered it displayed. The hologram flickered, and then a man appeared. A human dot. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing battle-worn armor that looked both ancient and advanced. His eyes were sharp and cold, as if they had seen centuries of war. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that silenced the room. "Dominion commanders, this is your only warning. Stand down your fleets. Abandon the systems you stole from us. This is not your war." Yet the hologram cut off instantly. No trace, no signal to follow. Silence filled the war hall. Then, "Admiral." Karath's spines flared. "We do not bow to threats," he snarled. "I will take a fleet and burn this phantom from the stars." Within hours, the Dominion assembled one of its most feared battle groups, 5 heavy war cruisers, 12 destroyers, and countless support craft. They moved out toward the latest reported sighting of the human ship. The hunt began. For 3 days, they found nothing. No warp trails, no heat signatures. The human ship was a ghost. Then, on the 4th day, a faint sensor ping appeared at the edge of a barren star system. The fleet moved in dot. At first, there was nothing, just an asteroid belt and a dim, dying sun. Then, without warning, the human ship decloaked directly in front of them. It was bigger than the Dominion had imagined. The black hull was scarred and patched with strange alloys. Entire sections of its armor bore marks from weapons no one in the galaxy used anymore. Admiral Karath opened a channel. "Unknown vessel, you are in Dominion territory. Power down and prepare to be boarded." There was a pause. Then the same human voice came through, calm and cold. "We warned you." Karath bared his fangs. "All ships fire at will." The Dominion fleet unleashed its full power. Plasma cannons lit the void, missile salvos streaked across space, and energy lances cut through the darkness. The human ship vanished into a sudden burst of white light and reappeared behind them, before the Dominion ships could adjust. Kinetic rounds, the size of city buses, slammed into their hulls. One destroyer broke apart instantly. Another was ripped in half by a single concentrated beam of energy. The human vessel moved with impossible precision, vanishing and reappearing in short jumps that should have been suicidal in combat. But their technology ignored the rules the Dominion knew. "Reposition, surround it," Karath shouted, but it was too late. The human ship's weapons flared, and 2 war cruisers exploded into clouds of debris. Then, without finishing the rest, the human ship stopped firing. It simply drifted in the void, its guns still hot, its engines silent. A final transmission came through. "You are not ready for this war. Leave now, and you might survive what comes next." And then it was gone, vanishing into the black between. The stars the Dominion fleet limped home, battered and broken. Karath's pride was shattered, but his rage burned hotter than ever. He swore to the High Council that the Dominion would not rest until the humans were crushed. But far away, in hidden space, the humans were already moving. In a massive hangar buried inside a hollowed asteroid, dozens of warships, bigger than the one the Dominion had seen, were coming online. Ancient engines roared back to life, casting long shadows across the steel walls. The human captain stood at the command deck, watching as his fleet assembled. "They'll come for us again," his second-in-command said. The captain's eyes stayed fixed on the void ahead. "Good, let them. This time, we won't leave survivors." The Dominion capital world, Vorak Prime, was a jewel of the galaxy's sprawling city that wrapped around a lush green planet. Its skies crisscrossed with the silver trails of countless ships. Towers of glass and metal reached into the clouds, and the great central spire of the High Council cast its shadow over the city's heart. The people felt safe here, untouchable. That morning, the skies were calm. The sun's light shimmered on the white domes of the governmental district. Merchants shouted in the crowded markets, children laughed in the parks, and high above, the Dominion fleet kept silent watch in orbit. Then, without warning, every defense alarm in the system went off. It began with the outermost sensor stations, going dark one after another in rapid sequence. Patrol ships tried to investigate, but disappeared before they could send back a single word. The orbital defense network scrambled to lock onto whatever was coming, but their scans showed only nothing. Empty space, and then the shadows arrived. They came from the darkness. Between the stars were ships, so massive they blotted out the sun. Hundreds of them, arranged in perfect formation, sliding silently into Dominion space. Their hulls were black as midnight, covered in scars and strange markings, each one bearing the ancient emblem of Earth. The first reaction in the High Council war room was disbelief. The second was fear. "Impossible," whispered a commander. "We saw one ship, maybe two. This is an entire fleet." Above the capital, the Dominion's proud orbital fleet moved to intercept. Hundreds of ships swarmed forward, their engines blazing. The order came down from Admiral Kareth himself: destroy them. The human fleet didn't move. It simply waited. When the Dominion ships entered firing range, the sky lit up with blinding flashes. Human railguns, invisible in the darkness, until they fired, unleashed devastating bursts of kinetic fire. Projectiles tore through shields like paper. Warcruisers crumpled under the impacts, spinning away in flames. Then came the beams, thin lines of white-hot light that sliced clean through entire battle lines. In less than 2 minutes, the Dominion's first wave was gone. The survivors retreated, but the humans followed. Their ships moved in unison, executing maneuvers that looked impossible, jumping in and out of short-range warp, striking from angles no enemy could predict. On the ground, the people of Vorak Prime looked up and saw the unthinkable. The skies were no longer silver and blue, they were burning. Fiery trails cut across the clouds as destroyed ships fell from orbit, crashing into the far edges of the city. The sound was deafening. Panic swept through the streets. Sirens wailed as civilians rushed for the underground shelters. The High Council tried to maintain control, but the human fleet had already surrounded the planet. There was no escape. And then the humans made their move. From the largest warship, an enormous dreadnought that dwarfed anything the Dominion had ever built, single dropship descended. It cut through the smoke-filled skies and landed directly on the Council's landing platform. The ramp lowered, and the first humans in over 600 years walked onto Dominion soil. They wore battle armor that looked older than the Dominion itself. Yet it gleamed with a strange, alien-like polish. At their head was the same man who had appeared in the Council's hologram before. His eyes scanned the terrified Dominion leaders. His voice was low, but it carried to every corner of the platform. "You've been building on our graves." No one moved. No one spoke. The humans didn't draw their weapons. They didn't need to. Outside, the fleet still hung in the sky, silent and waiting. "Leave the systems you stole from us," the human commander continued. "Erase your claims, or the next time we come, we will not leave anything standing." The High Chancellor tried to speak, but the human commander raised a hand. "You think this is your war? It isn't. This is a warning." Without another word, the humans turned and walked back into their dropship. Moments later, it rose into the burning skies, rejoining the massive fleet above. And just like that, the humans were gone. But the Dominion knew the truth. They hadn't been spared out of mercy. They'd been spared because the humans had bigger plans. Across the galaxy, news spread like wildfire. The myths were real. Humanity had returned, and their warships were unmatched. Some feared them, some wanted to find them, and some, in secret, began preparing for the day the humans would come again, because everyone knew they would. Asterisk. The Dominion had always prided itself on being unshakable. Its fleets spanned hundreds of systems, its armies numbered in the billions, and its economy fed half the galaxy. But in the weeks following the human fleet's appearance, the Dominion began to unravel, quietly at first, and then all at once. It started on the border worlds. Outlying colonies that had once flown the Dominion crest suddenly went dark. No distress calls, no evacuation orders, just silence. Patrol ships sent to investigate never returned. Admiral Kareth stood on the bridge of his rebuilt flagship, staring at the latest tactical map. Red warning markers now surrounded half the Dominion's outer territories. "They're cutting us apart," he growled, "system by system, and they don't even need to fight for most of it." His intelligence officer nodded grimly. "Sir, they're not just attacking, they're erasing us. Every captured world has its records purged, its communication relays destroyed, and the civilians, they're not harmed, just left behind. It's like they're making a point." In the High Council chambers, fear was beginning to overtake arrogance. The once defiant chancellors now whispered among themselves, debating whether surrender was even an option. But no message from the Dominion ever reached the humans, not because the humans ignored them, but because every envoy, every courier ship vanished before completing its journey. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien news networks played grainy, shaky recordings of the human fleet. Smugglers sold holovids of the black warships for small fortunes. The words "they have returned" became a rallying cry for oppressed worlds still under Dominion rule. The Dominion's enemies sensed weakness. Pirate clans raided trade convoys with impunity. Rebel factions rose on worlds once kept silent by fear. And the humans, they never stayed in one place long enough to be caught in the third week after the attack on Vorak Prime. The humans struck again, this time at Torvik 6, the Dominion's largest shipyard. It was a fortified system, surrounded by defense satellites and minefields, guarded by an entire fleet. It didn't matter. The human fleet appeared in perfect formation, bypassing the minefields entirely. Their weapons tore through the defense satellites in minutes. The Dominion fleet fought harder than it had at Vorak Prime, but the result was the same: ships vanished mid-battle, their destruction so fast that surviving commanders couldn't even record the cause. And then, As quickly as they had come, the humans left. Torvik 6 burned for days, its shipyards reduced to molten wreckage. Without it, the Dominion's ability to build new warships was crippled. Admiral Karith finally understood the truth. The humans weren't here to conquer. They were dismantling the Dominion, piece by piece, until nothing was left that could challenge them. But one question haunted him. Why now? That answer came unexpectedly, on a captured Dominion relay station. A transmission was intercepted human in origin, though heavily encrypted. Dominion codebreakers managed to decipher only fragments. The message spoke of the old war, unfinished business, and a debt to be collected. The most chilling line was the last. We have shown them restraint. That is the last mercy they will ever see. By the second month, the Dominion was a shadow of its former self. Trade collapsed. Entire fleets deserted. Border systems declared independence without fear of retaliation. The once proud High Council dissolved into chaos, its members fleeing to fortified private worlds. The final blow came not from a battle, but from silence. One day, the humans simply vanished. Their fleet disappeared into deep space, leaving no trace behind. No attacks, no sightings, no signals. In the war's aftermath, the galaxy was left with an empire in ruins and a legend stronger than ever. Historians argued over what had happened. Some claimed the humans were ancient guardians, returning only to punish the Dominion for crimes committed long ago. Others believed they had been rebuilding in secret, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But those who had faced them in battle knew better. The humans were not ghosts or myths. They were warriors, strategists, predators, who understood patience better than any other species in the galaxy. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of any star map, the human fleet waited. On the bridge of his flagship, the human commander stood at the viewport, looking out into the endless dark. His second-in-command approached. "It's over," she said. He shook his head slowly. "No, the Dominion has fallen. But the galaxy hasn't learned the lesson yet." Her brow furrowed. "And what lesson is that?" He turned to face her, his voice quiet but certain. "That humanity never disappears. We wait, we watch, and when we return, we finish what we start." The fleet turned, engines burning bright for a moment before fading into the void. And with that, humanity once again became a shadow, and the day they chose to return